What's up, everybody? This is Domingo Hero Network, and today's Yu-Gi-Oh video I'm going to be doing, guys, I'm going to do a deck profile, and this is going to be my updated version of my Familiar Possessed Charmer deck profile. And this is going to be for the post-Battle of Chaos, because in the Battle of Chaos deck, there was one new support for this deck, and we're going to get to that throughout this deck profile. So I'm going to show you guys the main deck, the extra deck, and the side deck, and also explain you guys my card choices and ratios and all that stuff. So let's not waste any time. So without further ado, let's get this deck profile started. So here we go. We're going to start off with the main deck first. So, alright, and in the main deck, we're going to start off with the monsters. So I'm going to start off by playing one of each of these Familiar Possessed monsters. So here we go. One copy of Familiar Possessed Area. One copy of Familiar Possessed Ulsa, one copy of Familiar Possessed Win, one copy of Familiar Possessed Hita, one copy of Familiar Possessed Lina, and one copy of the Familiar Possessed Darks. So these are all the Familiar Possessed monsters that I play, one of each. Now, we're not going to really use their effects because their effect is not that great, but we just play one of each of these mostly for the attributes, their names, their attack, and their defense. So that's the most important thing of how to play this style of this deck. You know, you want to focus more on four things. Number one, their names. Number two, their attributes. Number three, their attacks. And number four, their defense. And of course, they're all spellcasters as well. So, and of course, I got 5 of the 6 alternate arts for these Familiar Possessed. Familiar Possessed Dark does not have an alternate art, so hopefully in the future Konami makes an alternate art for Darks, and then if it does, I will definitely get that card, because the other 5 I got, they're all alternate arts, as you can see right here. So hopefully we get that Familiar Possessed Darks in the future, because I would love to see an alternate art for Darks, because I really want to get that one. So that's the play style, and and of course one of each of these is fine as well. So there's a lot of plays you could do with this deck as well. So now we're going to move on to the other monsters. First, I'm going to start off by playing 2 copies of Fairy Tale Luna and the 1 copy of Fatal Terror Rashka. Excuse me. Sorry about that. But yeah, so I decided to play 2 Lunas and 1 Rashka. Luna is pretty good in this deck, because what she does, she has an effect where, you know, when she's normal summoned, you can add 1 spellcaster monster with 1850 attack from your deck to your hand, and her second effect is once per turn. Quick effect, you can target 1 face-up monster your opponent control. Your opponent can send 1 card with that monster's name from their deck or extra deck to the graveyard to negate this effect. Otherwise, return both this card and that monster card to the hand. So it's like a compulsory effect, you know, as well. You know, searching for a spellcaster monster with 1850. And also, if you have this and Fairy Tale Awakening of Possess, right? You can Awaken to Possess, you know, normal summon the Luna, and then you get not only Awaken to Possess effect to draw a card, but also you can chain it with Luna's effect to get the search and stuff. So it's pretty cool as well. And I know people play like 3 of these, but I decided to play 2 because this and also 1 copy of the Rashka really helped out this deck a lot. So if you guys want to know what Rashka's effect does, right? Her effect says, when this card is normal summon, you can make your opponent gain 500 life points. Then, your opponent can look at the top 3 cards in your deck and choose one of them for you to add to your hand. Also, shuffle the rest back into the deck. Of course, you only use this effect Rashka once per turn. And her other effect says, once per battle, if the card battles before damage clears, you can send this card to the graveyard. So yeah, so I mostly use it for like her normal summoning effect, because like you don't have to worry about the whole your opponent gain 500 life points. But I love how, you know, your opponent had to look at the top 3 cards from your deck, and then they got to choose one of them to add to your hand and shuffle the other in the back. So that's pretty cool, because you're forcing your opponent to look at the top 3 cards in your hand, and they had to pick one of those 3 cards and add it to your hand. So that's actually pretty cool as well. I actually like the effect. So, you know, playing 2 Lunas and 1 Rashka really helped out a lot in this deck as well. So it's pretty cool. Alright, next we're going to move on to the animal monsters for the Charmers. So we're going to get into that right now. 2 copies of the Necrophilius Archfiend of Necrophiliousness. 2 copies of the Gigabyte. 2 copies of the Ranryu. And 1 copy of the Inaro Fire. So these are the animals for the Charmers that we're going to play. They have like their effects, you know, where you could special summon them if you control a spellcaster monster. I play these cards because they're good extenders. and not only that they're good extenders, but also you want to focus more on their attributes as well, especially if you're going to play like Awaken and Possess. Like if you have Awaken and Possess spellcast, and then these guys out here, you know, more attack point game with the Awaken and Possess. And also, I do play the Awaken and Possess for the Earth and the Water as well. Now, I don't use their effects that often because they're not that good, because you mainly want to focus more on the extension and summon out the Awaken and Possess, and also for their attributes as well. And also you want to go link summoning as well, and other plays that you want to do as well. So it's pretty cool. So play 7 of these. And speaking of the Awaken and Possess, I only played 2, and I played the Earth and the Water, like I said. So 1 copy of the Awaken and Possess Necrophilia's Archfiend, and the 1 copy of the Awaken and Possess God Gigabyte. So these are the ones that I played. They have there's a Wind one and a Fire one, but I played the Earth and the Water because I like their effects, especially when you go first. If you go first and then you summon out these 2, you get their effects up. Now, the other Awaken and Possess, like the Wind and the Fire, they're good, but I feel like they're more of like if you go second. These, on the other hand, you can use their effects when you go first. Of course, the Earth one has an effect where you could, you know, if this card special summon, you can special summon a level 4 lower monster from your graveyard, but that effect is negated. Then the Water one has an effect where this special summon, you can discard 1 random card from your opponent's hand, then both players draw 1 card. And also, they both have the same effect when they're sent to the field to the graveyard. You can add 1 possessed spell track card from your deck to your hand. So that's pretty good. And of course, you only get that effect once per turn. But if you summon out, if you ever get a chance to summon out these 2, because there comes a times when you go first and then you summon out these guys, and then when you link summoning, you know, with these 2, and then special summon a link monster, and you get both of their graveyard effect, and then you can get the search and stuff. Like you want to search for your Awaken and Possess, your Unpossessed, your Possessed Partnership. So these cards really do help a lot. So I like these cards. These cards are like the best ones to play. Alright, and the last monsters to play, just to round off the monsters, is, of course, is a hand trap. 3 copies of Ash Blossom and Joy Spring. No need to explain because you guys know what these cards does. Ash Blossom, best hand trap in the format. So that's it for the monsters. Now we're going to move on to the spells. So for the spells, I do play 3 copies of Spirit Charmer. And I also play 3 copies of Awakening of the Possessed. So these are the spell cards that I play in this deck. These cards are really, really good. Spirit Charmers and Awakening of the Possessed, this is the cards that, in my opinion, you always want to play at 3. So Spirit Charmer has an effect where, you know, you can discard 1 card, take 2 cards from your deck with different names from each other that are Charmer monsters, Familiar Possessed monsters, and / or Possessed spells and trap. Add 1 of them to your hand and set the other one. You can only activate 1 Spirit Charm per turn. So it's pretty cool. That's a card you always got to play at 3 because you want to search. You add 1 of them and then you set 1 of them face down. Spirit Charmers is amazing. It's a card really, really good. Then you have Awaken and Possessed. In my opinion, this card is fantastic. I love this card so much. Awaken and Possess is fantastic. This is a card, in my opinion, you want to play at 3. Don't want to play 1, you don't want to play 2. You got to play this card at 3. Because the effect of this card is absolutely amazing. So if you want to know the effect, first effect, monsters you control gain 300 attack for each different attributes you control. Second effect, Charmers and Familiar Possessed monsters you control cannot be destroyed by card effects. Then the third effect says, if a spellcaster monsters with 1850 original attack is normal or special summon to your field, draw 1 card. You can only use this effect once per turn. So the drawing effect is a hard once per turn. But a second effect is good because you want to protect your Familiar Possessed monster Charmer from being destroyed by card effects. But the first effect, oh my god, love it. Like I said, you know, because when you have this card out in the field, and if you get like 2 or 3 of these out in the field while you have monsters you control with different attributes, the beat stick, man, you know, gains more attack points and it become more stronger and stuff. And it's really, really good. I said this, you always want to play this card at 3 because of the first effect, especially the gaining the 300 attack for each monster you control with the different attributes, and it's really, really good. It really helped out a lot. And another thing, if you have this, the Unpossessed, and also a Charmer Link monster, you can protect your Charmer Link from being destroyed by card effects and stuff. So it's pretty cool. Alright guys, so the next spells I play 3 copies of Secret Village of the Spellcaster. I love this card. I don't play Eatrin because Eatrin is not that great in my opinion. I like Secret Village better because, you know, it has an effect where if you control a spellcaster monster, your opponent cannot activate no spells. if you don't control a spell cast upon, you cannot activate. So you got to be very careful with that. Just keep that in mind. But once you get your spellcaster out, definitely go Secret Village, and your opponent, you can shut your opponent down from activating their spells. So this card, you always got to play at 3. It's a very good field spell to play. In my opinion, a better field spell than Ichirin. Next, I play 3 copies of Regenki. Like this card, Regenki at 3, fantastic. I love it. And this Regenki helped out a lot. It's like getting rid of all your opponent's monster field, and the fact that this card is at 3 is incredible. Like it is amazing. I love playing 3 Regenkis now. It's pretty cool. All right, now for the 1-up spells, I do play 1 copy of Harvey's Feather Duster, you know, to get rid of your opponent's back row. 1 copy Monster Born, pretty good extender card. You get your consistency and stuff. 1 copy Called by the Grave, you know, banishing an opponent's monster in your graveyard and also negate the effects and stuff. And it's really helped out a lot. And it's also good against the hand traps as well. And the last spell card to round out the spells is 1 copy of Terraforming for your Secret Village, because Secret Village is a field spell, and of course you can search it with Terraforming. So it's pretty cool. All right, so that's it for the spells, and now we're gonna move on with the traps. So the first traps I'm gonna show you is 3 copies of Possessed Partnerships and 2 copies of Unpossessed. So these are the trap cards that I play. They're really good. Of course, Possessed Partnership, you can play somewhere between 2 to 3. 2 to 3 is fine, doesn't matter. Me, I like it at 3. And Unpossessed, you can play it only at 2. 1's not good enough. 3 is too bricky, so 2 is the perfect number. Possessed Partnership is somewhere between 2 to 3. Partnership's effect, it says you can special summon 1 spellcaster monster with 1500 defense from your hand or graveyard in attack position or face down defense position. Then, if you control monsters with 2 or more different attributes, you can destroy 1 face-up card on the field. Third effect, you can banish this card from the graveyard to target 1 possessed continuous spell / trap in your graveyard. Place it face up to your field. You can only use 1 Possessed Partnership effect per turn and only 1 stat turn. So it's a very hard once per turn. Just keep that in mind. Of course, you only have to activate 1 of the 3 effects per turn, only 1 stat turn. But despite that, Possessed Partnership is good. You know, it's like a Call to Haunted for your spellcaster with 15 defense. You know, and it's also good, like, if you play, like, the level 3 charge, you can set it face down and, you know, all this stuff as well. There's a lot of good plays you can do. And I liked how, like, if you control 2 or more monsters with different attributes, you destroy 1 face-up card in the field, so that's actually pretty cool. And, of course, if you have continuous spells and traps, let's say, like, you're Unpossessed or you're Awakened Unpossessed, you could just banish Partnership in the graveyard and then add it back to face up to your spells and traps. So that's pretty cool as well. And Unpossessed is another good card as well. I love Unpossessed as well. Of course, Unpossessed is a continuous track card. Of course, you can bring it back from the graveyard using Possessed Partnership, like I mentioned. Unpossessed's effect says, Charmer monsters you control cannot be destroyed by battle. And another effect, if a familiar possessed monster you control attacks an opponent's monster, it gains 800 attack points during damage calculation only. And the other effect is, if a monster you control is destroyed by battle by card effect, while this card is already face up in your spells and trap zone, you can special summon 1 spellcaster monster with 1500 defense from your deck whose attribute is different from at least 1 of those destroyed monsters' original attribute on the field, in face up in an attack position or face down the defense position. You can only use this effect on Unpossessed once per turn. So it's pretty cool. Like, if 1 of your monsters get destroyed, you know, you can special summon the spellcaster with 15 defense from your deck. And also, I like how, and also when one of your familiar possessed monster attack an opponent's monster, it gains that extra 800 attack point, beats it. It's pretty cool. Like, if you have Unpossessed and then Awaken the Possessed, it can gain more attack points and stuff. And also, the Charmer monsters cannot be destroyed by battle. Of course, your Charmer Link monsters, even though they have the effect when they said the tree is familiar possessed card, they're also Charmer monsters as well. So they both count as a Charmer monsters and a familiar possessed monster. So you can protect your Charmer Link monster from being destroyed by battle with Unpossessed. And also, like I said, if you got Unpossessed and Awakened Possessed and a Charmer Link monster, your Charmer Link cannot be destroyed by battle or by card effect. So that's actually pretty good as well, and really amazing. So it's really good track cards to play. Alright, and the last, I got 3 more track cards to show you just to round out the traps. So here we go. I do play the Solemn Brigade, and that is 2 copies of Solemn Strike, 1 copy of Solemn Warning. No need to explain this one. You guys know what the Solemn Brigade does. Solemn Brigade, you know, has really helped out a lot. So it's pretty cool. You could play, you know, if you want to play Judgment, you could, you know, if you want to. It's all up to personal preference. So that's it for the main deck, guys. Now we're going to move on to the extra deck. So I'm going to show you guys the Charmer Link Monster. So here we go. So 1 copy of Area, the Water Charmer Gentle. 1 copy of also the Earth Charmer Immovable. 1 copy of Wind the Wind Charmer Verdict. 1 copy of Hita, the Fire Charmer Ablaze. 1 copy of Lina, the Light Charmer Illustrious. And 1 copy of Darks, the Dark Charmer Gloomy. So these, and we got all 6 Charmer Link monsters. That is so cool. And of course, the Dark Charmer is the new support that came out from Battle of Chaos. Now, these Link monsters have the same effect, but for their respected attribute, like, you know, water, area with water, also with earth, wind with wind, Hita with fire, Lina with light, and darks with dark. So it's pretty cool as well. Of course, like I said, they have like the same effects, like, you know, where they said, of course, they have the effect where, you know, they can only be treated as a familiar possessed card. They have the effect you can target a monster in your opponent's graveyard with a respected attribute, special summon to your zone that this card points to. If their link summoning card is destroyed by battle or destroyed by an opponent's card effect while it's in the owner's monster zone, you can add 1 monster with the respected attribute with 15 or less defense from your deck to your hand. Of course, you can only use each of those effect once per turn. So it's pretty good. So, you know, special summoning, you know, and if they get destroyed, you know, you can search out the monsters 15 or less with their respective attribute. And look at this, guys. Like, wow, look at this. I got all these holos. I got 3 ultra rares of these and 3 super rares. Like, this is incredible, man. Like, look at all these holos, man. Amazing. Very happy. I got all 6 of these Charmer Link monsters. Love Charmers because it's one of my favorite decks to play. So, yeah. Alright, guys. So now we're going to move on to the other Link monsters that I play. I play 1 copy of IP Masquerena and 1 copy of the Barricade Bolt Blocker. So these are the other Link 2s that I play. Of course, Masquerena is amazing. Like, you know, Link summoning during your opponent's turn. Also, when you use her as a Link material, that Link monster you summon with Masquerena, one of the Link material, where you could protect it from being destroyed by an opponent's card effect, which is good. Barricade Bolt Blocker. Blocker is good too. What he does if he's Link summoned, you can discard 1 card during the end phase of this turn. You can add 1 continuous or field spell card from your graveyard to your hand. You can only use this effect of blocker once per turn. And also, his other effects that face-up spells you control cannot be destroyed by an opponent's card effect. So that's pretty cool because it protects your face-up spells like your Secret Village and your Awakening of Possessed. So that's actually pretty cool as well. These are really good cards to play. Now we're going to move on to the Nightmare package. 1 copy of Nightmare Service, 1 copy of Nightmare Phoenix, and the 1 copy of Nightmare Unicorn. Look at the alternative for Unicorn. So, yeah, of course, Service, you know, destroys a special summoning monster that was in the main monster zone on your opponent's side. Phoenix destroys 1 spell track card on your opponent's side. And Unicorn, you know, you target 1 card in the field and just shuffle it back to the deck and stuff. And also, of course, Phoenix and Service, you know, when they're co-ling, you can protect your monsters that are co-ling being destroyed by battle by card effects. So that's pretty good. And Unicorn, when they're co-ling, you know, you draw 1 card for each of the co-lings that are, you know, that, and of course it has to be Nightmare monsters that are co-ling to get the drawing effect. So the Nightmare package is pretty good. I love playing the Nightmare. It's just really, really, really good. Alright, so next one I play 1 copy of Selene, Queens of the Master Magician. Selene is really good in this deck. What she does, right, if this card is linked summon, you can place spell counters on this card equal to the number of spells on the field and in the graveyards. While you control an Endymion card on the field, your opponent cannot target this card for an attacks. And the third effect says, once per turn during the main phase, quick effect, you can remove 3 spell counters from your field, special summon 1 spellcaster monster from your hand or graveyard and defenses to the zone that this card points to. So it's like a Monster Born, because, you know, once you have the spell cards like in your fields or in the graveyards, whatever, and gains more spell counters by the time you link summon her, and then you remove 3 counters, special summon the spellcaster monster from your hand or graveyard to the zone of this card in face of defense position. It's really good for your link plays and stuff like that as well. And also, Selene has 1850 attack. So that means if you have Awakened to Possess and you link summon her, you can just draw 1 card. So it's pretty cool. And she's also a spellcaster. Alright, guys, so now for the rest of the links that are Link Force, 1 copy of Unchained Abomination, 1 copy of Saruto Scaldread, and the 1 copy of the Appaloosa, Bolt of the Goddess. Like, really good Link 4 monsters. I love playing. Abomination is amazing. I love this card. Especially it has effect, destroying 1 card your opponent control and stuff. You can actually use each of those effects once per turn. Of course, the first one, if a card in the field is destroyed by a card effect, except during the damage step, you destroy one card in the field and destroy it. Second effect, you can target one card in the field, destroy it, while, and when another monster is destroyed by battle, you target one card in the field, destroy it. And then the third effect says during the end phase, you can target one card in the field and destroy it. So that's pretty cool. And you can get each of those effects once per turn. So it's not a hard once per turn, but it's pretty cool. If you get a chance to use 3 of those effects, you could destroy 3 cards you're putting. Like, that's amazing. Of course, the first one, of course, a card in the field has to be destroyed by card effect, except by Abomination's effect. Second effect, like if a monster is destroyed by battle, then you get Abomination's effect. And then also during the end phase, you can get Abomination's. It's pretty cool. Really good Link 4 monster as well. Then you have Then you got Saruda Skull Dread. Skull Dread is amazing. Of course, this is a card has effect, where, if a monster normal special summon to its own this card points, it gains 300 attack. And of course, second effect during your maybe you can special one monster from your hand. And then the third effect, you can draw, when it's linked summon, draw 4 cards, then place 3 cards from your hand to the bottom deck in any order. Of course, it depends about how many link materials that you use with different names to summon out Solar Skull Dread, just to let you know. But it's a really good card to play. And then we got Appaloosa. Appaloosa, really good card. I love this card. Of course, you can only control one Appaloosa. Of course, she gains, the original attack of this card becomes 800 multiply the numbers of link materials that use to link summon this card. Once per chain, when your opponent activates a monster effect, quick effect, you can make this card lose exactly 800 attack. And if you do, negate the evacuation. So negate your opponent's monster effect by having it lose 800 attack and stuff. So it's pretty, once per chain. So Appaloosa is pretty good. So yeah, that's it for the extra deck. Now we're gonna move on to the side deck. So here's the side deck, guys. So the first monster I want to show you, I decided to decide, is 3 copies of Edith the Sun Magician. This card is really, really good. So what this card does, if this card is normal summon or flips face up, you can special summon 1 spellcaster monster with 1500 defense from your hand or deck and face down possess missions, except Edith the Sun Magician. During your opponent's main phase, quick effect, you can change 1 face down spellcaster monster you control to face up attack or defense. You can only use each effect of either the summons once per turn. That is so cool, and this card is one of the best cards for Charmers, especially when you play the level 3 Charmers. So that's really good, especially someone else from the deck your hand, and then during your opponent's turn, flip it face up, and then all that stuff. It's really, really good. Either the Sun Magician is amazing. I love this card so much. It really helps out, because I know before that the Charmer monsters, the level 3, they're not that good, but thanks to Ethan the Sun Magician, they're actually useful to play. So that's why I decided to side deck either the Sun Magician and the Charmer level 3 monsters, which I'm going to show you right now. 1 copy of Area the Water Charmer, 1 copy of Ulsa the Earth Charmer, 1 copy of Wind the Wind Charmer, 1 copy of Hita the Fire Charmer, 1 copy of Lina the Light Charmer, and 1 copy of Darks the Dark Charmer. So these are the Charmers I play, I side deck, and thanks to Eden the Sun Magician, these cards are useful to play and side deck. Of course, they have their effects where, when they flip, you can take 1 monster you're putting in control with that has to have the same attributes as the flip monster. Like, for example, Area with Water, also with Earth, Wind with Wind, Hita with Fire, Lina with Light, and Dark with Dark. So that's pretty good. And of course, these cards could be special summoned using the effect of Eden the Sun Magician, when this card is no more flip face up. So it's pretty cool. And then during your opponent's main phase, you can activate Eden Magician's effect, and then, target your level 3 Charmer that was face down, you can flip it face up, and then take control of an opponent's monster that has respected attributes. So it's pretty cool. And, it's really cool. So thanks to Eden the Sun Magician, these level 3 Charmers are actually playable and useful now. So that's pretty cool. Like, if your opponent, let's say, like, you side these deck, right? If your opponent plays, let's say, like a water deck, you could side deck all the Eden Sun Magician and the Water Charmer and stuff, and then you can take control of opponent's water monster. So it's pretty good. Alright, so, and the last cards that I play to round off the side deck, guys, I play 3 copies of the Dark Ruler No More, and 3 copies of Dimensional Barrier to round off the side deck. Dark Ruler No More, negates all face-up monsters opponent control. The only problem is you take no damage. You cannot activate any monster effect if you activate. So just keep that in mind. But it's still a good card because you want to negate your opponent's stuff. And Dimensional Barrier is pretty good, because if your opponent has like a Ritual, Fusion, Synchro, XYZ, or Pendulum, you know, you can activate Deep Arrow, so not only that they cannot special summon, but also the effects are negated as well. So it's pretty cool. And since my entire extra deck is links, so, and that's the reason why my extra deck is only links, because of D-Barrier. And D-Barrier does not work on the links. It only works for Rituals, Fusions, Synchros, and XYZs, and Pendulums. So that's pretty cool as well. And D-Barrier helped out a lot, as well as Dark Ruler No More. Alright guys, so that's going to be it for this video, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed my updated version of my Familiar Possessed Charmer deck profile. And also, you know, you can play, if you ever make this deck, you can play whatever card you want to play. It's all up to you guys. It's all up to personal preference. So that's going to be it for this video, guys. So don't forget to like this video, share, subscribe, post your comments in the comments section. Tell me what you think about my updated version of my Familiar Possessed Charmer deck profile. That's going to be it for this video, guys. So this is Domingo Hero Network. All I can say is take care. Have a good day. Goodbye, everyone. And Domingo Hero Network is signing out. Peace.